Hello everyone, Alistair Gold here. So, there's only really one place to start because we've had some unexpected events in terms of the transfer market and Spurs making a move for a player that, let's be honest, when we probably all first heard the name, I think the general reaction probably would have been, eh? But actually, it makes a bit of sense. It's Timo Werner, I should point out, the former Chelsea player. I'm kind of doing my normal digging into these things and being quite over the top obsessive about looking into stats and little bits and pieces and things and talking to other people as well about the move itself and the player himself and just trying to kind of understand it. Because, on the face of it, you kind of just think, well, isn't he that chap that played at Chelsea and kind of had high-profile misses and people said, well, it didn't work out for him, he was a bit of a flop. But actually, there's a kind of a lot to this deal that makes sense. So, if you're not aware of exactly what's happened, so Spurs have moved very quickly on this. The negotiations, everything has advanced very quickly from the off. From what I understand, he's been an option within Spurs' list of potential attackers. I've told you this in the past, that they've been looking for an attacker who can play out wide and also through the middle. This is exactly what Timo Werner can do. I don't think any of us realised kind of he was on that list of options, but that's a kind of the great thing, I guess, is that journalists can't be across everything. And that's sometimes a good thing, as much as it pains me as a journalist to say, but it allows clubs like Tottenham especially, who like to do these kind of deals, to get in there and tie up a deal without the kind of involvement or interference of other clubs that might suddenly want to hijack it. Yes, kind of speculation quickly grows around the kind of the agent community, but I still think this one, from speaking to various agents and people in the game, I think this one's surprised a lot of people as well. It's like I say, all very quickly in the space of about 24 hours or so has just suddenly accelerated to the point where it is almost done. Timo Werner is going to he'll move back over, I guess, to England in the next 28 to 48 hours. He's expected to be in England by the end of this weekend, get it all tied up. Spurs players have been given Saturday and Sunday off this weekend because of their FA Cup exploits and the fact that they've got 9 days between games. So Ange Postecoglou, Chris Davies, his coaching staff can all work with them across a full week, essentially ahead of the game, while also giving them a couple of days to rest their weary bones. So the idea is to try to get Werner into training on either Monday or Tuesday and kind of just getting cracking on with it, really, ahead of the Man U game. You can get him into the squad for that. So the deal itself, it's initially a loan to the end of the season, and then after that there's an option to buy in the summer, which, from what I understand, and it certainly seems to be backed up in Germany as well, they've been saying this kind of figure. It's been a bit of a kind of a range of figures, but it appears to be, certainly could be, no more than £15.5 million as an option. So it's kind of one of, before we even get into the nitty-gritty of what you think about Timo Werner, what he's done, what he hasn't done, things like that, on the face of it, either way, that's a deal for a player where you can have a look at him for the remainder of the season. If he's a success, fantastic. 15.5 million is a very small deal for a player in today's kind of market. German international, 27 years old. It's a good deal. If it doesn't work at all, and it's just one of those ones that you try before you buy, if he ends up not being great, straight back to Leipzig. It is a good deal in that respect. And from what I understand, Ange Postecoglou has been instrumental in it. I think he sees a player in Werner who has a lot of the physical attributes that fit his system perfectly. Of course, you've got the pace, we know about that. But also the selflessness and kind of work ethic for the team, we know he loves that. And the ability to press, but also get back as well down those flanks if required. And like I said at the top of this, the ability to play not only on the left predominantly of the two wings, but also through the middle. He's played a lot through the centre in his career, but he can also play on the right as well. So it's just another one of these. You'll notice that a lot of his players that he'll bring in can kind of multitask in various roles. It could be because he knackers a lot of his players out and they pick up injuries, especially hamstring injuries in the first 6 months to a year of his reign, as we've spoken about before. So yeah, it's an interesting one. It is. Obviously, kind of Leipzig have pretty much kind of, well, they've kind of confirmed it. They put out a statement saying that he was not going to be in their friendly against St Gallen today because he was in talks with another club. We know who that other club was. I think their manager, I saw just before I kind of was coming into this video, that he'd essentially said that, you know, he kind of goes with their best wishes because he wanted game time. He wanted to be in contention, I guess, put himself into contention for the Germany squad for the Euros. So it's all kind of to do with that. And yeah, like I say, Postecoglou is very keen on this deal. It's one of those where I know people are. I know the natural reaction whenever anyone says that about a manager is going to say, "Oh, well, you would say that anyway because, you know, blah blah blah. It's this or it's a good deal or whatever." But the truth is, especially with Postecoglou, he has to be, because Spurs won't sign a player that Postecoglou is not happy to have in his squad. You know, we've had managers like Mourinho and Conte who have surprisingly, especially with their reputations, have put up with players brought into their team or squad that were maybe you can imagine they were kind of almost convinced to bring them in. I mean, we spoke about it previously about Danjuma, decent player, but did he fit Conte's system? Not even in the slightest. He admitted that himself. Jed Spence, another one, we're going to talk about him later. But with Postecoglou, perhaps the most single-minded of all of those, which might be a surprise to some in terms of when you see it's Mourinho and Conte. But with Postecoglou, there is no point trying to bring in a player that he knows will not fit his system or is not a good choice for his team and can improve it. He just will not have it. And that's a good thing. And I think we've seen that in the transfers so far. They've all kind of worked because they fitted in perfectly. They've adapted very quickly because he knew they would, because he's going to put them in a style of football that, regardless of the league, is going to get the best out of them. And this, apparently, is the feeling with Timo Werner. I mean, for me, with Sonny especially away at the moment and the big kind of hole that's left in the squad, I think it's a non-risk move, really, to bring in someone that can play down that left-hand side or through the middle or on the right. But even when Sonny comes back, you know, if you think about, I'm not saying certain players will be out, you know, who knows where they'll be on the pitch. But if you just think about it in a loan, let's say they were to do a front three of for a game of Werner, Son and Johnson. The pace in that front three is terrifying. That is a ridiculous front three in terms of speed. I'm not saying Kulusevski won't play. He might be sitting in midfield. And I'm not saying Richardson's going to get bombed out either. I'm just saying if he were to use against a certain opposition, that front three, that's scary in terms of pace. Player of the season, that's a close one for me between Sonny and Vicario. Sonny has just been remarkable up front and what he's contributed to the team this season, how important he's been. And Vicario's the same at the other end. But Porro's up there. Porro's up there in the discussion, definitely. And talking of Sonny, if you weren't aware just kind of how much of a miss that he is for Tottenham, I think you just had to look at last night, Sonny. Obviously, like I say, you take someone out of your team who's not only your captain, but he's contributed 17 goal involvements in 20 games. I think some people maybe just kind of underestimated how much of a loss Sonny would be. I don't think they kind of maybe understand just kind of how much he puts into his work rate in the team. The fact that he's got the experience, I think, to know a little bit better than the rest of the younger players what to do in certain moments, the decisions to make in the final third. Not to mention his leadership skills as well that he's showing this season as well. And I think also there's the thing with Sonny is that because he's such a name, such a known quantity, sometimes teams will double up on him. They'll bring another centre-back across to also keep an eye on him. And that just naturally creates space for other players. So I think you suddenly take him out of the team and other players that have used to getting a little less attention suddenly are the focus of the defender's attention. And yeah, you do miss him. And Postecoglou kind of speaking about him just ahead of the game, and he said, Sonny's been an outstanding leader in deeds, actions, and words, and we're going to need players to step up, irrespective of who's wearing the armband. We need to try and fill that hole that he's left, because I think he's been outstanding for us. Sonny, if you name a team of the year at the moment, he's in it. He's been a hell of a player for us. It's a big loss for us, another one. And we're going to have to really raise everyone's levels to cover the absence of another significant contributor for us this season. We know Spurs continue to be in the chase for Radu Dragusin. Despite Napoli doing their very best to jump into the top of the queue, they're throwing very attractive offers in there for Genoa in terms of not only a bit of cash, but players that Genoa like. A couple of players, by the sounds of it, as well, trying to entice them, and also trying to entice the 21-year-old himself, Dragusin, because he would likely probably get more playing time at Napoli than he would at Spurs. But from what I understand, he would prefer a move to the Premier League. That obviously is one of his dreams, as a lot of players kind of do dream of doing it if the deal can be done. And that's, I think, the ace in their hand for Spurs, is they've got that, and that I think Dragusin is waiting for them to kind of come in with a better offer as well. And I think they know that, which is often the way Spurs operate with deals like this. And let's be honest, in terms of playing time, the amount of times Spurs got players injured, the amount of times that Romero picks up a suspension, who knows, Mickey van der Ven could pick up a suspension. He could end up playing just as many minutes. And if he comes in and does fantastically, there's nothing to say that he won't keep his spot. So it's a challenge for him. It is the biggest league in the world, let's be honest. And even though we're completely biased because we're involved in it or watch it, it is a big move for him. And the Davies injury really increases the need to get the deal done for me ahead of the Man U game. Even if that means someone like Dragusin, hopefully Dragusin, because he's a player they clearly want, in before that game and putting him straight in alongside Van der Ven. Postecoglou wouldn't be scared of that. You know, put Van der Ven and Udogie together against Brentford. I don't think Van der Ven maybe had one training session. I don't even know if he had a training session. So he's not going to be scared of that. It's just, you could look at it from the other perspective. For Dragusin, hello, debut, Tottenham Hotspur against Man U, Old Trafford. That's why I want to move. That's exactly it. And that's the kind of thing you'd imagine a player like he will relish. So yeah, let's see what happens in the next probably 48 hours on that one. I think that's going to be the key period. And Spurs, I think it will just be a case of, we need the numbers. We need to get him through the door. We need to we can't really afford to mess around with this too much now. If he wants to come, that's great, but let's make it happen.